You don't need a PMP to get a better job. You don't need a PMP to increase your salary. You definitely don't need a PMP to become a project manager. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down some false beliefs that you guys might have about the PMP certificate and also just about certificates in general. By the end of this video, you'll know crystal clear whether you should continue pursuing a PMP certificate or if you're simply wasting your time. But first of all, who am I and why am I qualified to talk on this topic? Well, my name is Eddie. I'm a project manager working as a project manager for the last 8+ years. And in my third year as a project manager, I actually started making 6 figures. And in my entire career, I've actually made multiple 6-figure income. I made $300,000 in a single year in 2022 to 2023, working remotely from places like Buenos Aires, Argentina, Cusco, Peru, Medellin, Colombia, and many other places by working 2 full-time project management contracts. And I've got a ton of experience working contracts as a project manager. And the best part about it is that I mentioned I actually don't even have a PMP certificate. In fact, I don't have any certificate. I don't have a CAPM. I don't have a Prince 2. I don't have a Agile certificate. The only thing I do have is a bachelor's degree in business, which I got over a decade ago. And so that is the only formal credentials that I have, but I've been working as a project manager successfully for the last 8+ years. Now, I'm so confident in my ability as a project manager, you could actually call up any of my past employers and ask them about me, and they would give you great reviews about my experience as a project manager. And that's why I keep getting hired over and over again. And that's why I'm actually here helping other people become project managers, sharing my skills and lessons that I've learned to hopefully help you cross the bridge and become a project manager and be successful at it without having to get a PMP certificate. Now, I say all this to really drive the point home that you definitely don't need a certificate, a project management certificate or project management professional certificate or any certificate for that matter to become a successful project manager. And I am living proof of that. Like I mentioned, I have no certificate at all to my name, yet here I am successfully managing large projects worth millions of dollars for companies in tech, in medical devices, in pharmaceuticals, and manufacturing, and lots of different industries and domains. One of the beautiful things about project management, or one of the many beautiful things about project management, is that it is unlike any other career. Let me give you a couple examples. Let's say you wanted to fly a plane. Could you fly a plane? Maybe you could technically fly a plane, but you formally would not, or legally you wouldn't be allowed to fly a plane because you actually need a pilot's license in order to fly a plane. Similarly, if you wanted to become a public accountant and actually sign off on documents for businesses in the States, you would actually need to have a certified professional accounting certificate to be able to do that successfully. And then in order to be a lawyer, you have to pass a state bar, and only then can you actually represent clients and in a court of law. And just like that, there are so many professions where you are mandated, you are obligated to have to pass a certain exam or have to get a specific certificate in order to call yourself a doctor, a lawyer, a nurse, and then be able to actually practice your profession and get paid for it. However, in project management, it's completely different. There's no such rule where you need a certificate to become a project manager. Anyone can become a project manager. You can become a project manager. I can become a project manager. Your Aunt Sally can become a project manager. And so this kind of leads to the question then, well, if anyone can become a project manager, well, what does it take to become a project manager, and what's the point of the PMP certificate? Let's first talk about what's the point of a PMP certificate. And actually, let's take a step back and talk about what's the point of certifications that are not an obligation. What are the point of certificates in general that are not mandatory? And in general terms, a certification is something that certifies that you have prerequisite knowledge or understanding or experience in a specific area. And that certificate is usually issued by an organization or a company that is known for being really good at that thing. So in this case, project management professional certificate is issued by the Project Management Institute, which is known for project management. And so the value of that certificate comes from the association that people have with the organization that issues it. In other words, if some random company just started issuing project management professional certificates, it wouldn't really have much value in the marketplace if people didn't have a positive association with that company already. But since people have a positive association with the PMI Institute and they're well known around the world and they're recognized internationally, that's what gives it value as a certificate, because people know it and they trust it. And so for me, if I'm an employer and I'm looking to hire a project manager and I see someone with a PMP certificate, I can immediately make some judgments about that person, because I know in order to get that PMP certificate, they would have had to have gotten their bachelor's degree degree, they would have had to have multiple years of managing and leading projects, and they would have had to have passed an exam about project management. And so it's kind of like a filter where this other entity, the PMI Institute, has already done kind of like a background check on this person to show that he or she is qualified in certain areas and in certain skills. And so the certificate serves as a quick way to provide credibility to the person who's holding it. Now, one thing that needs to be made clear is that just because you have a PMP certificate does not mean that you are a good project manager. So that's a very important distinction, because many people can get PMP certified. Many people have a PMP certification, but they're not necessarily project managers. In fact, I know people that I work with right now that are developers and engineers who have never in their life managed a project professionally in a corporate setting, yet they have a PMP certificate, but they don't truly know how to actually manage or run projects. Now, how these people got the certificate in the first place, who knows? Maybe they made up experience on their resume to show that they had experience managing leading projects, or they stretched the term of what leading a project is, and they were able to find a way to become eligible to be able to actually write the PMP exam and get the certificate. But again, they don't know how to manage projects professionally in a professional setting. And if you feel like you need to do that you need to somehow just find a way to get the PMP certificate, even if you don't have any experience managing projects, because you feel like that's going to help you get a job, by all means do that. I'm not here to tell you what to do or what not to do. It's completely up to you. If you feel like you need to just get that certificate, and you'll feel more comfortable, confident in applying for jobs once you have that on your resume. But what I do want to highlight here is that you actually don't need a PMP certificate in order to get callbacks for interviews for a project manager role. What you do need to have, though, is a stack of undeniable proof that you know how to manage projects. And it's even better if those projects that you know how to manage are the same ones that the employer, the hiring manager, is looking to hire for. Now, if you don't have a stack of undeniable proof that you know how to manage projects on your resume, then you really have just two options. The first option you have is that you can reframe your existing experiences in whatever field you're in. Maybe you're in operations, maybe you're in development, maybe you're in engineering. Whatever experience you have in other roles, you can try to reframe it as a project on your resume and present that as a project manager role. Or you can look into your personal life and look at the projects that you've managed in your personal life, and that could be like event planning projects, weddings, volunteer events. You can frame those as projects and present them on your resume as project management experience. Now, granted, those may not be as strong, but definitely will help you stand out a little bit and get you callbacks for more entry-level project manager roles. One of the other things that you can do to get some experience on your resume to show that you have experience managing projects is that you can actually create a project at home, carry it out, and then show it on your resume as experience. So a quick example might be you can build a website, and you can actually scope it out, what you want the website to look like, how many pages it needs to have, and what your timeline is, and how you're going to execute on it, and what resources you need to actually get it done, and then actually executing on it to build that website. And then after it's built, showing it on your resume as experience. And one of the great parts about this is that you could actually show something tangible to the interviewer if it came up during the interview, because you now have a live website that you could point to and say, hey, I built this was my project, and I managed it, and we delivered this on time, and all the other great things that it took to actually get that project done. Now, if you're unable to reframe any of your existing experiences as project manager roles, or you're not willing to spend the time that it takes to actually spin up a new project, execute it, and then show it on your resume, then your next best option is simply to look for project coordinator roles, because those are going to be easier to get your foot in the door. And then once you're in, you can start learning about project management, working directly with a project manager, and gradually move your way up to lead project coordinator, and then eventually to project manager. Now, let's say that you have experience managing projects and you're getting callbacks for interviews based on your resume, but for some reason you're not getting hired. And so you start thinking, hey, maybe I need the PMP in order to get hired. In this scenario, I would actually ask you to think again. The fact that you're getting callbacks for interviews when the hiring manager and the recruiters, they know that you don't have a PMP, but they're still calling you back, it means that something is sticking out in your resume that is attracting them to your profile. And so they want to speak to you. They want to see if you're going to be a good fit for the company. So they've already discarded the fact that you don't have a PMP. They don't care about it. They just want to meet you and see if you'd be a good fit. Now, if you're in this stage, then the reason you're not getting hired can just be boiled down to three reasons. The first reason is simply they just don't like you. They just didn't like you when they met you, and they didn't get a good vibe from you. And so in this case, this is about your personality, and they just felt like this is not going to be a good fit. So that's reason number one, is that they just simply didn't like you. Reason number two is that you were not able to convey your skills properly to the interviewer. In other words, you might have skills of a project manager, you've done projects before, but you just were not able to communicate that clearly to the hiring manager, and that's why you didn't get the job. The last reason you might not be getting the job is that maybe you did communicate the value really well, that yes, you know how to manage projects, and maybe even the interviewer liked you, but it could be that the team that's already inside working at the company might not work with your personality. And so they might have chosen to pass on you simply because your personality may not jive well with the existing team already inside the company. Now, let's say you have a stack of undeniable proof that you're a great project manager on your resume and you're getting project after project, you keep getting hired, you have no issues getting a job, but for some reason, you're just not getting paid what you feel like you're worth, and you feel like, hey, maybe I should get the PMP certificate to increase my salary, then here's what I would say to you. I would argue that you are just simply lacking negotiation skills, or you are just not as good of a project manager as you think you are. And a quick way to find out if you are as good of a project manager as you think you are and as valuable as you think you are, then simply make an ultimatum to your company and let them know that if by the end of the year or whatever duration you want to give them, you're not being paid X amount, then you will be leaving the company. And if they see the value in you, if they know that you are a good project manager, then they will have no problem hiring you or paying you the amount that you're asking for. At the end of the day, companies will pay for results, not for certificates. So if you're thinking, I'm not getting paid more because I don't have this certificate, it's not necessarily the case. Companies pay for value, not for certificates. And just a quick note here, if you are a really good project manager and not getting paid what you deserve, then consider switching over from full-time work, like a full-time employee, to actual contracts, because on contracts, you actually have the opportunity to make a lot more money on an hourly basis much more quickly. Typically on contract, you are going to get a pay increase of 30 to 40% more just by working contracts, especially if you're working contracts as an incorporated project manager. Now, the last reason people might go out of their way to get the PMP certificate is because they think that it will make them a better project manager. My claim is that the PMP can equip you with the tools and knowledge to manage projects, but it cannot make you a better project manager. Project management at its core really just boils down to how skilled you are in the soft skills that you have. So skills like communication, skills like leadership, skills like organization, time management, problem solving, emotional intelligence. And these are the soft skills that actually move the lever of how good a project manager is or how poor a project manager is. So if you have a deficiency in any of these soft skills, they are going to be impacting your ability to manage projects successfully. And I would argue that instead of spending months studying for the PMP exam, why not spend that same time in increasing your proficiency in the soft skills that are needed to become a project manager? I personally find that the information you find in the PMBoK, the project management body of knowledge, is overly technical and not practical at all. I'm actually going to list all the random things that you learn in the PMBoK that I've never heard of in my 8-year career as a project manager. So things like earned value management formulas, things like Monte Carlo simulation, organizational process assets, forward, backward schedule passes calculations, PERT and 3-point estimation formulas, resource leveling and smoothing calculations, enterprise environmental factors, control procurement audit, scope variance analysis. I mean, there's so much stuff that you learn in the PMBoK when you're studying for the PMP that you simply just do not use in the real world. And I can tell you from being a project manager, working in corporate, in multiple companies, multiple industries, that I've never come across any of this stuff. So if you seriously want to become a better project manager, focus on improving your soft skills and on your personal development, because that is what's going to move the lever and make you a better project manager. And one of the best parts about learning the soft skills or improving your soft skills is you can actually implement them immediately and start seeing the results right away. And I can prove this to you right now. Say you want to improve your skills in communication, and it might teach you something like, to be a better communicator, you need to actively listen. And so in order to actively listen, it might tell you to do 3 things, like make sure you're paying attention to what the person is saying, make sure you're focusing fully on the speaker and not thinking about what you're going to say in response. And then at the end, after the person has done speaking, paraphrase what they actually said so that you can confirm your understanding. And so that's a way of improving your communication. And after just reading that, learning it, you can immediately implement it in the next conversation you have at work or any other situation where you feel like you really need to actively listen. And it is these skills that will help you become a better project manager long term, not the technical jargon that you're going to learn in the project management body of knowledge in order to get the PMP. Now, the only situation where I would personally approve that you go ahead and go get a PMP certificate is simply if you just love learning and you just want to learn and get a certificate for the sake of getting a certificate. But in any other scenario, if you feel like getting a certificate is to get more interviews, or getting a certificate is for increasing your pay, or getting a certificate is for becoming a better project manager, then I would recommend the other solutions to those challenges. So again, if you're not getting interviews, it's likely because your resume sucks and you don't have enough proof that you know how to manage projects on there. But if you are getting interviews and you are working as a project manager, but it's not getting paid what you feel like you deserve, then in that case, maybe you need to negotiate or increase your value as a project manager. And lastly, if you feel like getting a PMP is going to increase your skills as a project manager, then I would recommend, instead of working on all this technical jargon, work on the soft skills that will truly move the lever in how good and effective you are as a project manager. So let me know where you're at. Are you considering getting the PMP? Why or why not? And maybe you've already got the PMP. Let me know if you find it valuable, if it's helping you in your job as a project manager. And lastly, maybe you have a friend who's considering getting the PMP or is considering project management. Send him this video. Maybe this will help him or her in their journey in deciding whether or not to pursue the PMP or go a different route. And lastly, before you go, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I have a lot more great content planned, and I'm hoping to help as many people as I can become project managers and find success in their life through a career in project management. See you on the next one.